Hey, Tom Ferry, your coach. Happy Friday. Man, I've been in some really interesting conversations with people about their presentations, about how they're ultimately leading people down the path of getting a yes. A yes, whether that means yes on a negotiation, yes to buy a home, yes to to recruit from one company to the next company, just a yes. And what's interesting is a lot of people right now are looking for the close, the way to people move people off the fence. And you and I both know the challenge is people don't want to be sold. People love to buy. People love to buy, now more than ever, especially during the holidays. We all love to buy. We are consumers. Hello, look at the last decade, the over lifestyle decade. But nobody wants to be hard closed. So I started to think about, what are some of the most effective things I've learned from people like Ron Arden, one of my incredible speech coaches and a powerful influencer. Ron always talked about the power of storytelling. The power of storytelling. I think back over the last couple of decades of some of the most memorable presenters I saw, people I learned from. I didn't always remember, point 1, 2, 3, or 4, but I always remembered their stories. Their stories are what moved me. And that really got me thinking, the power of storytelling is remembering that people remember you, or they remember your brand, your company, your business, your service, what it is you provide. People remember you, your brand, because of your stories or the stories talked about you. So the question I have for you is, how good of a storyteller are you? Do you have the ability to walk into a holiday function this time of the year and tell a story that compels people, that engages people, that causes people to listen? Do you have that ability? Remember, they don't always care about the number of transactions you closed or what the statistical data about the market, but they remember you and they remember your brand because of your stories. Ron Arden said to me 3 things. Know thy audience. Always know who you're talking to if you want to be a better storyteller. If I'm talking to a graduating class of seniors, it's a different conversation than me talking to a group of CEOs or executives or sales professionals. Know your audience. The second thing he said was the power of the dramatic pause. He said the great storytellers, the most intriguing speakers, presenters, performers you've ever seen, always have the ability to stop and let the person get engaged. And that's that pause. Too often we find salespeople that are just motor mouths. And you know what? We're all a little ADD these days. Whether it's our BlackBerry or something going off, we're all a little distracted. That dramatic pause brings us back in. Brings us back in. Are you a good storyteller? The last one is, you got to use emotion. So I'll give you an example. I was thinking about a story that always moves me. And too often in life we have people that they want to make a decision, but they don't. Have you ever dealt with some customers like that? They want to make a decision, but they don't. The challenge, if we say to them, you need to make a decision, you got to move forward, come on, let's go. There's not a lot of power in that. But in a story, you can use metaphor as a way to get people off the stick. And I always think of the story of my grandfather. And my grandfather moved from Minnesota to California. And he brought his family during very challenging times with very little money to California to start over, to sort of restart he and my grandmother's life with my dad and my uncles and aunts. And on his deathbed, after going into his second quadruple bypass in 10 years, they gave him a very slim chance of survival. And I remember sitting with him and asking him, looking back at your life, 84, 85 years, looking back at your life, what was some of the most important things you did? And what advice would you give to me, your grandson, moving forward? And I can remember him looking me in the eyes, and he always had a big smile on his face. He had big hair, which all of us seem to have. And he looked at me and he said, the most important thing I did is I moved the family from Minnesota to California. And he said, not that Minnesota was a bad place. He said, but there wasn't enough opportunity for the things and the specialties and the skills that I had. So I had to move here and start over. And he said, it was risky. It was a struggle early on. It was a challenge. He said, but when I look back over the course of my life, had I not been the person that was smart enough to take that risk and make that choice, I wouldn't be here today, you wouldn't be here today, and the family would not be in the position they're in today. So the lesson is, Tom, don't wait. Don't wait. Take action. Be a little risky and move forward. I wonder if he was sitting in front of you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I wonder what my grandfather would say to you. Now, You with me on that? You probably got lost in the story a little bit, but I started that by saying the power of story, the power of metaphor to get people off the fence, take action and move forward. In essence, that was a close, but you know what? They're not going to remember that. They're going to remember me and my grandfather. And for me, that was a true story. For me, I get a little emotional when I think about it. And the pause, him looking at me and saying, don't wait, follow your dreams, do it now. That's the lesson. So, in recap, I want to say to you, the power is in your ability to tell stories. That is what people are going to remember about you and your brand. Some things to do to work on becoming a better storyteller, knowing your audience, the dramatic pause, using emotions. Check out Ron Arden. He wrote a great book. He and, matter of fact, one of my mentors, Brian Tracy, just on all this stuff, highly recommended. So here's the thought of the day for Friday. What stories are you telling going into 2010 to your customers to have your brand get bigger and make sure that you are the one they remember? Have a great Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. Always remember, your strategy matters and your passion rules. Thanks for watching.